In the past, I have found myself making decisions based on what other people want of me rather than what I intuitively know to be the right decision. And I know this happens a lot as creatives. We can get really confused with what art to make, where to put it, what to be doing, and what decisions to make. And especially in the world with so many opinions, and it can get confusing. And so today is all about changing for you, not just for a few. And by that, I mean along the journey, people will give you advice and people will tell you, I think you should make this type of art because it will sell better, or I think you should be painting this way, or I think you should paint in this color. And it can start to get really confusing. And actually, you should change for you. And the reason that I'm recording this podcast is it would have been my nan's 91st birthday today. And I was sat here thinking about my nan and thinking about how it would have been her birthday and how my nan, my Nanny Dot, she did not change for anyone. She was so her own person. She was very clear on her values and who she was, and she did not bend over for anybody. And I just think that that sparked the idea for this podcast. Thank you to Nanny Dot. And it was her dream, her uttermost dream, to have a family party at the age of 90, but she sadly died at 89. And it was her dream, like I say, to get all the family together and celebrate that milestone of her 90th birthday. And I think also remembering that was also another reason to record this podcast episode, because ultimately as we start to focus more on what really is important, I think that helps us navigate away from people's opinions more. And that was another reason I wanted to do this, because my nan didn't get to have that party. However, she had lots of parties and she lived her life to the fullest. But it just reminds me that ultimately that was what was important at the end of towards the end of my nan's life, was that party, getting her family together, not people pleasing, not trying to be someone else to get into a gallery, or and that's why I want to bring this conversation back to as well, because I feel like this. I feel like over the years, I've been told this won't work or you should do this. I've also found myself guided by people's opinions, but also seeing other people do things. This is another big one. So, people telling you should do this, do that, their opinions, but also seeing people that are doing things in a different way to you. And it can start to make you think, oh my gosh, I should be doing it like that. And before you know it, you've changed the way you do something, or who you are, or the way you create, because you see someone else doing it a certain way and you think that that would bring you more fruition, or whatever the reason is that you're doing this. And so it's being careful of this along the way. And we live in a world with so many opinions. Even if we don't want the opinion, they're just there. And we have to be careful along the way. And I'll share how I'm careful. So for me, I've become much more aware of when I'm making decisions with my head versus my heart. And along the journey, I've been told, I don't think you should set up this, it's not going to work. I think you should do it in this way. And I've stuck to my decision because it's felt right. And I thought, well, all these people might be wrong, but I'm still going to do this anyway. And I'm also a big believer of trying things out. And, I remember when I released my book in the month of August, there was not one person on the planet that said, that's a good idea. Because apparently, I know now, you just don't release a book. Books don't get published in the month of August because it's the worst month for sales. It's the worst. No one else is publishing books. I don't know. And I really wanted to publish my book in August on my birthday. And that's what I wanted to do. And it felt like the right thing to do. If I'd have published it 6 months earlier, maybe it would have sold double the amount. Who knows? And frankly, I don't actually care because that's what felt right. It felt right for me to do it in August. And not everything has to be about the maximum amount of money, the maximum amount of sales. It's about what feels right. And that's something I've leaned into more and more and more over the years, rather than get derailed by the opinions of a few. It's what am I feeling? And there's the difference between the head and the heart for me. So now, before I make decisions and I change a direction or I'm changing who I am, it's about why am I doing this? Where is this being driven from? Up here or here? And that ultimately helps me decide. And I think having now been through the process of hearing people's opinions and advice from trusted people and realize that they weren't right, and I've actually done it my own way, and it ended up being what I originally thought, against the advice of all these people. And also realizing that as creatives, people will have opinions on the type of art you make, on where you should put it, on how much you should price it, on where it should be, and what color you should use, and the scale. Like, there are so many opinions because it is all so subjective. And also, in the world right now and coming up, there are so many different ways, and shiny object syndrome. And I find that in this world, there will always be a new platform, a new way of doing something, a current trend. And if you sell something in this way, you'll fly. And there's always going to be those things around us. And again, if it feels right to do it, go for it. But if it's coming from up here and you're seeing other people doing it and you're wondering whether you should do it, which is quite often what's happening for me, it just doesn't feel right. When I boil it down, it doesn't feel right to just jump on that next platform, for me. And then so I stick with what I'm doing. And it's never failed me, because I truly believe that when you stick to what it is that you love and what feels right, there is no wrong in that, ever. It's only good. Because that's what life is all about. That's Nanny Dot wanting that 91st birthday party because it felt great to have all her family around. And in life, do more of what feels good and fills your heart with joy. And don't change for those few that say that you should be doing it like this, especially if it doesn't feel right. And it all goes back to what it feels to me. And that's how I navigate all of this. And I share this because I do see people derail and change their work and change themselves and make a decision, based on other people's opinions on, or what they're seeing around them. And it's sad, but at the same time, if you do it, and I've done it a million times, I probably will still do it again, because we're not immune to this. It's not about beating ourselves up about it, but it's about recognizing where you're making that decision from, and knowing that you do have the answers inside of you. And then trusting that as well, trusting your own decision, and being brave in that, and being brave in, everyone says that I shouldn't launch in August, but I'm going to do it anyway because it feels right to me. And whatever the outcome is fine, because I've trusted that I'm doing it in this way for a reason. And who knows, maybe 10 years I'll understand the reason. Don't need to understand it all now. I'm doing what feels right now. And as long as I keep doing what feels right, I know I'm on the right pathway. I hope that helps you the next time you want to make a decision, and just be aware about all the noise, the opinions around you, and hopefully they're not derailing you too much. Have a wonderful week, my friends. I'll speak to you soon.